Wyoming Territory, July 1883. When the stagecoach crashed and left Tessa Bellamy stranded. She expected judgment from the cowboy who offered help. Instead, Rhodes's simple response, "I never asked you to be," changed everything she thought she knew about second chances. She was Tessa, carrying shame from a past that had stolen her money and innocence. He was Rhodes, a solitary rancher who'd learned that a person's worth had nothing to do with their history. Together, they'd discover that love begins with acceptance. Their love would grow quietly through one Wyoming season, built on honest work and mutual respect, rather than romantic fantasy. Together, they'd prove that the strongest foundations are laid by people brave enough to be truthful about who they really are. Wyoming Territory in 1883 remained unforgiving frontier where women's reputations determined their survival prospects and social acceptance. Fallen women faced systematic exclusion from respectable employment and marriage opportunities, forcing them into cycles of exploitation or desperate deception about their pasts. Frontier isolation created environment where individual character mattered more than social credentials, but also made women vulnerable to predators who exploited their limited options. Stagecoach travel connected scattered settlements while exposing passengers to dangers from weather, mechanical failures, and human threats. Single women seeking employment face constant scrutiny about their moral character, with assumptions that any woman traveling alone must have questionable motives or compromised virtue. Society's harsh judgment of non-virginal women created pressure for lies and deception that poisoned potential relationships before they could develop naturally. 23-year-old woman whose trust in a previous lover had resulted in both financial ruin and loss of virginity, leaving her with practical understanding of masculine exploitation combined with determination never to be victimized again. Her experience had taught her to evaluate men's character through actions rather than words. Traveling to Red Bluff for boarding house work represented an attempt to build independent life based on honest labor rather than dependence on masculine protection that had previously betrayed her. Her directness about her non-virginal status reflected decision to face potential rejection honestly rather than build relationships on deceptive foundations. Her wariness balanced with fundamental decency. She remained capable of trust, but required proof of character before offering emotional vulnerability. Her small knife symbolized both practical self-defense and psychological boundary setting that experience had taught her was necessary. 30-year-old bachelor rancher whose simple lifestyle reflected contentment with solitary existence rather than social inadequacy or fear of commitment. His brother's death had left him land and responsibilities that shaped his practical approach to life and relationships. His immediate acceptance of Tessa's sexual history demonstrated moral maturity rare in frontier society. He judged character, rather than conformity, to social expectations about feminine purity. His steady nature and direct communication style created safe space for honesty that Tessa had rarely encountered. His offer of help, without expectation of romantic reciprocation, proved genuine kindness, while his growing attraction developed naturally through shared work and conversation rather than physical desire or social convenience. Their relationship developed against social pressure, requiring women to conceal sexual histories while men demanded virginal wives. External challenges included community judgment, economic uncertainty, and practical difficulties of frontier life that tested partnerships under stress. Internal obstacles involved Tessa's defensive walls built through betrayal and Rhodes's uncertainty about expressing romantic interest without seeming to exploit her vulnerable position. Both had to overcome assumptions about what the other wanted or deserved from relationships. Rhodes's first encounter with Tessa, composed despite the stagecoach accident, practical about her circumstances, direct about her needs, revealed character that impressed him more than conventional feminine helplessness. Her refusal to play damsel in distress while accepting necessary assistance showed independence balanced with realistic assessment of frontier dangers. His offer of help without romantic proposition or expectation of gratitude surprised Tessa, who'd learned to suspect masculine motives through painful experience. His matter-of-fact approach to her situation, treating her as person needing transportation rather than woman requiring rescue, established tone of mutual respect. Physical attraction developed gradually through proximity during their ride, her awareness of his competent handling of horse and terrain, his appreciation of her practical courage and straightforward conversation. Neither rushed toward romantic interpretation of their connection, allowing appreciation to build naturally. Tessa's wariness created necessary distance, while Rhodes's patient respect for her boundaries demonstrated character that her previous experience hadn't taught her to expect. Their initial conversation revealed intellectual compatibility alongside physical awareness that neither pushed beyond comfortable limits. The storm that forced them to shelter together created intimacy without coercion, allowing both to observe each other's character under stress without artificial romantic pressure. Trust developed through Rhodes's consistent demonstration of respect for Tessa's autonomy and his genuine lack of expectation regarding romantic or physical reciprocation. His provision of shelter, food, and protection came without strings attached or hints about repayment through submission or gratitude. Their evening conversation about past marriages and relationships created safe space for honesty about expectations and experiences. Rhodes's admission that marriage timing hadn't been right showed thoughtfulness about partnership rather than casual approach to commitment. Tessa's revelation about her sexual history, delivered as challenge or test, met with Rhodes's calm acceptance, proved his character in crucial moment. His response that he'd never asked her to be virginal demonstrated maturity that distinguished him from men who'd previously disappointed her. Their shared meal and comfortable silence showed developing ease with each other's presence, without pressure for constant conversation or entertainment. Both recognized growing comfort as foundation for potential deeper connection. Morning preparations and plans for reaching Red Bluff revealed mutual consideration, Rhodes ensuring her safety and employment prospects, while Tessa appreciating his help without feeling obligated. Beyond appropriate gratitude, Tessa's defensive mechanisms, essential for protecting herself from exploitation, made emotional vulnerability feel dangerous despite growing trust in Rhodes's character. Her previous betrayal had taught her that masculine kindness often concealed ulterior motives. Rhodes's uncertainty about expressing romantic interest without seeming to exploit her vulnerable position created careful distance that could be misinterpreted as lack of attraction or merely temporary charity until he could deliver her to town. Social pressure awaited them in Red Bluff, where their overnight stay together would create gossip and speculation that might damage both their reputations, regardless of innocent nature of their shelter sharing. Economic insecurity meant Tessa needed employment independence rather than romantic dependence. While Rhodes's modest ranch operation might not support additional person without careful planning and mutual commitment to shared work, rather than traditional gender role arrangements. Most challenging was timing both needed to determine whether their connection represented genuine compatibility or merely gratitude and loneliness finding convenient target during crisis. After Tessa began working at the Red Bluff boarding house, Rhodes's regular visits to town for supplies became opportunities for continued acquaintance that developed into genuine friendship. Their conversations during his fence-mending invitation revealed shared values about honest work, land stewardship, and personal independence that suggested compatibility beyond initial attraction. Working together on practical projects mending fences, planning cabin improvements created natural partnership where both contributed skills and labor equally. Tessa's domestic expertise complemented Rhodes's ranching knowledge, while her literacy helped with record-keeping he'd previously neglected. Their collaboration felt effortless rather than forced, suggesting foundation for sustainable long-term partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. The turning point came when Rhodes showed Tessa his plans for expanding the cabin, acknowledging his hopes for shared future without pressuring her for immediate commitment. His vulnerability in admitting loneliness and desire for partnership, balanced with respect for her need for independence, created safe space for emotional honesty. Tessa's admission that she wanted to belong somewhere, to land, to place, to person who valued her completely opened door to romantic possibilities both had been approaching carefully. Their recognition that individual healing had prepared them for healthy partnership marked transition from cautious friendship to intentional courtship. Their first intentional kiss sealed emotional commitment while acknowledging physical attraction both had been respectfully managing. Physical connection developed naturally through shared work and domestic proximity that respected both their boundaries and growing desire. Rhodes's patient approach to physical intimacy, guided by Tessa's comfort level rather than his own urgency, proved his genuine care for her well-being over personal gratification. Their physical relationship progressed from casual touches during work to intentional affection that acknowledged mutual attraction while maintaining respect for Tessa's autonomy in determining pace and extent of intimate contact. When they finally shared complete physical intimacy, it represented choice and desire rather than obligation or payment, validating Tessa's worth as person deserving love rather than commodity for masculine consumption. Community gossip about their relationship created social pressure that tested their commitment while highlighting unconventional nature of their courtship. Some neighbors approved of their obvious compatibility, while others questioned whether fallen woman deserved respectable marriage to decent man. Economic challenges arose as Tessa's boarding house employment, while providing independence, limited time available for developing their relationship and contributing to ranch operations that would support shared future. Balancing individual financial security with partnership building required careful negotiation. Winter's approach created deadline pressure for major life decisions, continuing separate living arrangements through harsh season or committing to shared household that implied marriage without formal ceremony that might not be immediately available. Legal complications emerged regarding property rights and inheritance if they married, as territorial law regarding women's property ownership and spousal rights remained inconsistent and potentially problematic for protecting Tessa's interests. Social expectations about courtship timeline and marriage procedures conflicted with their practical needs and personal preferences, creating pressure to conform to conventional patterns that didn't fit their circumstances or personalities. Most challenging was external judgment about Tessa's worthiness for marriage to respectable man, with some community members suggesting Rhodes was making poor choice that would damage his reputation and future prospects. Tessa's transformation from defensive survivor to confident partner reflected love's power to heal while building new identity based on genuine acceptance rather than performance of social expectations. Rhodes's consistent respect for her history and character helped her rediscover self-worth that betrayal had damaged. Her growing willingness to plan shared future and accept belonging somewhere showed evolution from protective isolation to healthy interdependence. Love taught her that commitment could enhance rather than threaten individual autonomy when built on mutual respect. Rhodes learned that love meant accepting people completely rather than trying to change or improve them according to social standards. His relationship with Tessa challenged him to value character over convention while deepening his appreciation for honest communication. Together, they discovered that strongest relationships are built on truthfulness about past experiences rather than pretense about meeting impossible social standards that damage authentic connection. The crisis emerged when Territorial Circuit Judge arrived in Red Bluff for seasonal court sessions, bringing legal scrutiny to informal relationships and unmarried cohabitation that had been overlooked during months without official oversight. Community pressure mounted for couples to formalize marriages or face legal consequences for immoral conduct. Tessa faced potential prosecution for lewd cohabitation despite their careful maintenance of separate residences, while Rhodes could lose property rights if convicted of moral turpitude charges that territorial law used to punish social nonconformity. Legal marriage offered protection, but required public ceremony that would subject Tessa to community judgment about her worthiness. The judge's investigation of moral conditions in frontier settlements specifically targeted unconventional relationships, with particular suspicion directed toward women whose reputations suggested previous sexual experience. Tessa's history, if publicly revealed during legal proceedings, could result in banishment from the territory or worse. Their carefully built relationship faced destruction through legal system designed to enforce social conventions rather than protect individual happiness or authentic connection. External authorities threatened to separate them using moral justification that neither accepted, but both were powerless to challenge directly. The separation felt inevitable as legal pressure mounted and community support wavered under official scrutiny that made defending their relationship socially and legally dangerous for anyone who might help them. facing potential public exposure of her sexual history during legal proceedings. Tessa struggled with returning shame and self-blame that she thought she'd overcome through Rhodes's acceptance. Community whispers and official disapproval revived doubts about her worthiness for happiness and respectable marriage. Her isolation in the boarding house, under increased scrutiny from both guests and management, who feared association with women facing moral charges, recreated loneliness and defensive barriers she'd worked to lower. Fear of destroying Rhodes's reputation through continued association created pressure to sacrifice their relationship for his protection. She began planning to leave Red Bluff before legal proceedings could expose her completely, believing that disappearing would protect both her dignity and Rhodes's future prospects in the community where he'd built his life. Rhodes's determination and frustration, confronting legal system that treated their genuine love as criminal behavior while ignoring actual exploitation and abuse that flourished under social convention. Rhodes experienced rage at hypocrisy that threatened to destroy authentic relationships while protecting profitable vice. His growing understanding of systematic way that society punished women for sexual history while rewarding men for same behavior fueled determination to protect Tessa regardless of legal or social consequences. His consultation with sympathetic residents revealed limited options for challenging territorial authority. Most difficult was recognizing that his privilege as respectable male landowner couldn't automatically protect women he loved from gender-specific persecution designed to control feminine behavior through fear and shame. When Rhodes discovered Tessa's plan to flee rather than subject him to legal scrutiny, he chose immediate marriage proposal over cautious courtship timeline they'd been following. His declaration that he'd rather face legal consequences with her than live safely without her proved his complete commitment to their partnership. Tessa's acceptance of hasty marriage represented trust that their love could withstand any external pressure when they faced challenges together rather than separately. Their decision to marry immediately, before judge could prevent ceremony, became act of defiance against system attempting to destroy authentic connection. Their wedding ceremony, held hastily before territorial officials could intervene, took place in Rhodes' cabin with me given as witness, simple, private, and authentic rather than public spectacle subject to community judgment. Tessa wore her best dress, while Rhodes stood in clean work clothes, both choosing substance over social display. When territorial marshal arrived the following day to investigate moral irregularities, he found legally married couple whose documentation was unassailable, despite his obvious displeasure at their successful circumvention of his authority. "She's my wife now," Rhodes declared, showing marriage certificate that established Tessa's legal protection and social respectability. The confrontation revealed systematic nature of official harassment directed at relationships that challenged social conventions. But legal marriage had transformed Tessa from vulnerable target to protected woman whose rights could not be easily violated. Their unity in facing official scrutiny demonstrated partnership strength that impressed even hostile authorities. Community reaction divided between neighbors who supported their obvious love and devotion versus those who condemned hasty marriage as evidence of improper relationship. But their visible happiness and efficient household operation gradually won respect from practical frontier residents who valued results over moral posturing. Federal investigation of territorial court corruption, triggered by complaints about persecution of law-abiding citizens for consensual relationships, eventually led to removal of officials who'd targeted couples like Rhodes and Tessa. Their courage in maintaining relationship despite legal pressure contributed to broader reforms protecting individual rights. Most importantly, their marriage ceremony represented choice to build life together based on mutual love and respect, rather than external validation or social approval. Standing together in their own cabin, they'd created sanctuary where authenticity mattered more than conformity. Their legal marriage transformed Rhodes' cabin from bachelor quarters to family home, where Tessa's domestic skills created warmth and efficiency that impressed visiting neighbors. Their obvious partnership in both household and ranch operations demonstrated successful collaboration that enhanced both their lives. Winter isolation became opportunity for deepening intimacy rather than test of compatibility, as they discovered shared rhythms and preferences that made cohabitation comfortable rather than stressful. Their quiet contentment together proved their relationship was built on genuine compatibility rather than mere attraction or convenience. Economic prosperity followed their efficient partnership as Tessa's household management freed Rhodes to expand ranch operations, while her literacy skills improved record-keeping and correspondence that enhanced business relationships. Their combined efforts created success neither could have achieved alone. Spring brought news of Tessa's pregnancy, fulfilling hopes for family expansion while proving their marriage was creating new life and happiness. Their joy at expecting child together validated every risk they'd taken to build relationship despite social pressure. Community acceptance grew as their success became undeniable, and their character proved itself through consistent demonstration of mutual respect and shared values. Other couples facing similar social pressure found encouragement in their example of authentic love triumphing over convention. Most significantly, their marriage had evolved from defensive alliance against social judgment to genuine partnership built on complete acceptance and mutual support. Both had found belonging and purpose through relationship that honored their authentic selves, rather than requiring performance of social expectations. Federal reforms protecting consensual relationships from territorial persecution drew partly from complaints about systematic harassment of couples like Rhodes and Tessa. Their successful resistance to official moral policing helped establish precedents protecting individual choice in relationships. Their marriage influenced community attitudes about women's sexual history, demonstrating that character and current behavior mattered more than past experiences when evaluating worthiness for respect and marriage. Other women with complicated histories found increased acceptance following their example. Educational impact spread through their story, becoming example of how frontier society could evolve beyond rigid moral judgments toward practical evaluation of individual worth based on actions, rather than conformity to impossible standards that damaged authentic relationships. Legal precedents from federal intervention in their case helped protect other couples from territorial authorities who used moral legislation to persecute personal relationships that violated social conventions without harming anyone. Their successful partnership influenced frontier marriage customs by demonstrating that relationships built on honesty and mutual acceptance created stronger foundations than those based on deception or social performance that hid authentic personalities. Economic development followed their model of collaborative marriage, where both spouses contributed equally to household success, proving that partnerships utilizing everyone's skills were more prosperous than traditional arrangements that wasted women's capabilities. 20 years later, their story was told as example of how frontier society matured from harsh moral judgment toward practical acceptance, that individual character mattered more than social credentials when building communities based on mutual support rather than exclusion. Within 2 years of their marriage, 3 other couples in Red Bluff married despite unconventional courtships or complicated histories. Encouraged by Rhodes and Tessa's obvious success and community acceptance, their example proved that authentic relationships could thrive when built on honesty rather than social performance. Their cabin became informal gathering place for couples facing social pressure about their relationships, offering advice about building partnerships based on mutual acceptance rather than conventional expectations. Other women with sexual histories found encouragement in Tessa's confident happiness and respected position. Economic benefits spread as their successful collaborative marriage influenced other couples toward more equal partnerships that utilized both spouses' skills, creating more prosperous households and stronger community overall. Their story influenced territorial social attitudes, making it more acceptable for couples to marry based on genuine compatibility, rather than purely social or economic considerations, while reducing stigma attached to women's sexual histories. Federal legislation protecting individual relationship choices from territorial moral persecution drew partly from precedents established when officials' harassment of their marriage was overturned. Their case helped establish framework for protecting consensual adult relationships from governmental interference. Educational programs based on their story taught about recognizing individual worth beyond social categories and building relationships on authentic acceptance rather than performance of impossible standards that damaged community cohesion. Their marriage influenced territorial legal reforms that reduced gender-based persecution of women for sexual history, while establishing more equitable property rights for married women, regardless of their background before marriage. Community development patterns shifted toward more inclusive approaches that valued individual contribution over social credentials, helping create stronger settlements based on mutual support rather than exclusion and moral judgment. 25 years later, Wyoming's statehood constitution included progressive relationship protection laws that historians traced partly to precedents established by their case and others defending individual choice against systematic moral persecution. Their marriage evolved into legendary partnership characterized by mutual respect, honest communication, and shared commitment to building life based on authentic values rather than social expectations. Both became examples of how people could overcome difficult histories through genuine acceptance and love. They raised 5 children who grew up understanding that personal worth came from character and actions rather than conformity to social standards that often conflicted with authentic human nature. and individual circumstances. In old age, they remained devoted couple whose quiet contentment inspired others about possibilities for genuine partnership based on complete acceptance. True love begins with accepting people exactly as they are, including their histories and imperfections, then grows through mutual respect and shared commitment to building authentic life together. The strongest relationships are founded on truth rather than social performance.